Good morning. In today's video I'm going to take a look at 4 mistakes that I see all the time, week in, week out in my practice here in Enfield, made by employees. So these are frequent and recognizable and habitual, and perhaps you might recognize 1 or 2 of the mistakes, or you may run the risk of falling into making one of these mistakes. Hopefully this video might put you straight and give you some guidance. I'm hoping that it will be of assistance. Number 1, the first one is failing to recognise the difference between a breach of an employment right and a justiciable claim, as it were, and a grievance, what essentially is a grievance in the workplace. So if you think about it, as an employee, your rights will derive from the Constitution, from statute, and from your contract of employment. Unless there's a breach in one of those 3 areas, the possibility is that what you have is a grievance, a complaint, a sense of unfairness, a sense of being hard done by. However, unfairness is not necessarily unlawful, and therefore will not give rise to a claim, will not give rise to a cause of action, a legal cause of action, which might succeed either at the WRC or in the civil courts. The second big mistake I see all the time is mistaking occupational stress with actionable workplace stress. Occupational stress is the normal stress that's attendant to working. In other words, work is not play, it's not recreation, it's not games. There is a certain element of stress associated with every job, no matter whether it's from the lowest to the highest ranking or the highest in status and so forth. Every job has its own particular stresses, and people obviously have their own stresses which they bring to work then as well. The stress of childcare, the stress of paying mortgages and for mobile phone bills, and so on and so forth. But there is a world of difference between ordinary occupational stress, which courts have recognised is natural and understandable, versus actionable workplace stress. And actionable workplace stress is really stress of such a magnitude that it overbears your mind and causes the employee a psychological or psychiatric injury. This is the difference between the 2. So one is actionable and the other, unfortunately, is recognised as just being part and parcel of working and living. The third common mistake I see on a regular basis here in Enfield is the employee looking at the contract of employment and interpreting it in a very literal fashion. In other words, failing to recognise that there are certain terms which would be implied into most contracts in any event. In other words, the contract of employment that they bring to me may have some express terms in it. It may have a list or a schedule of duties associated with the job, but that doesn't mean that the duties or the express terms are cast in stone. There is certain terms, as I say, implied into the contract, one of which is that you must follow the reasonable direction of the employer. So an overly literal, legalistic approach to interpreting the contract, to constructing the contract, is a mistake, I believe. Fourth and finally, I see the regular mistake of confusing bullying with management. In other words, I get quite a few employees who have had decisions made against them by a supervisor or by a manager or by somebody in the workplace, and perhaps it happens over a period of time. However, it may well just be management. It may well be management with which you don't agree, but it wouldn't necessarily amount to bullying. Bullying is repeated inappropriate behaviour which offends the employee's dignity. Again, there's a big difference between that and management which makes decisions that may make you unhappy or disappointed or with which you don't agree, but that is a different situation from bullying. I hope you find this video useful. There are 4 mistakes that I see regularly here in my solicitor's practice in Enfield and County Meath. I hope you find this video useful. If you do, I would appreciate if you gave it the thumbs up down below. Thanks for watching.